going on, and he was attacked, and he was stripped of his raiment. He was wounded, and they departed him, leaving half dead. First off, we see he was traveling alone. Then we see that he was stripped of his garments. He was stripped of everything he had as a man or as a person. He was nothing without. After the thieves had left him, they wounded him. They beat him down. They left him as nothing, and then they left him half dead. By the time they were done, he was nothing. He was so much wounded and gone in a way that a priest saw him, didn't even go near him, just seen him as he was, seen him in the position he was in his life, and went to the other side of the road and walked by. Wouldn't even stay on the same side of the road he was. As so many people call themselves Christians and yet see a druggie or see a homeless man on the side of the road in this place in his life as this man was, and they'll cross the street to get away from him because they don't want to have nothing to do with him. Verse 32 says, And likewise a Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked unto him and passed by on the other side. Now remember, this is talking about who his neighbor is. The priest knew he wasn't his neighbor because he couldn't help himself. He couldn't help him. So the priest went the other way. To the priest, that man wasn't his neighbor because there was nothing to profit from helping him. And for the Levite, he was at the place, came and looked unto him and passed on the other side. This Levite came to him and looked unto him, saw his helpless position, saw he didn't know the man, and left. So many of us, to us, a neighbor is someone we know, someone we've been acquainted with, someone we've lived beside for years. And we see somebody on the side of the road broke down, we might slow down. Well, we don't know them, so we'll go on. That's not who a neighbor should be unto us. I'm really glad, though, the story doesn't end at verse 32. It doesn't leave the man rejected. He doesn't leave the man in a helpless state. He doesn't leave the man like he found him in the story. He doesn't leave the man in nowhere, in a bottomless pit, as so many of us were in our spiritual life. But verse 33 says, But a certain Samaritan, that's not it, it's but. There's more to the story. That's a conjunction combining two things together. That's the first part of the story sad, but now we're at the climax of it. Now we're fixing to get to the good part. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came to where he was, and he saw him, and he had compassion on him. This Samaritan is someone who's rejected. The Samaritan race to the Jews is someone who's totally rejected. They kicked them out of the cities. That's why they're called a Samaritan, because they built their own city called Samaria. They were rejected. They had to build their own cities. If this certain man would have saw the Samaritan on the side of the road, he probably would have crossed the road and left him be, because that's what the culture was in that time. But this Samaritan, he had compassion on him. He went out of his way. He did the unordinary. He did something that nobody else would have done. He had compassion unto him. And in verse 34 it says, He went unto him. So in contrast of being left alone, the Samaritan went unto him. In contrast of being wounded, the Samaritan bound up his wounds. In contrast to being left half dead, the Samaritan anointed him with the oil and wine, pouring oil in his wounds. In contrast to having to walk and having to carry his own load, as the certain man was having to carry his possessions. In contrast to that, the Samaritan set him on his own beast. In contrast of having nothing, the Samaritan gave him everything he had, and brought him to an inn and took care of him. And on the morrow, when he departed, he took out 2 pence and gave them to the host, and said unto him, Take care of him, and whatsoever thou spendest more, when I come again, I'll repay thee. In contrast to going from having everything to nothing, the Samaritan gave him everything back and paid for him. I'm glad in a spiritual aspect, when God found us in the ditch where we were, He didn't leave us there. He gave us the food. He gave us the raiment. Isaiah said our righteousness are as filthy rags, and our goodness is unclean. That's where this man is. His righteousness was nothing. He had nothing. It was filthy rags, ripped up and torn garments. But the Samaritan gave him his. And the contrast of being wounded and being left half dead, as we were spiritually trying to find the answer in this world, the Samaritan gave him the answer and gave him healing. Romans 5:8 says, "But God commended His love toward us, that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us." That's not after we became sinners. That's not after we quit drinking. That's not after we quit smoking. That's while we were yet sinners. God had so much compassion on us that He died for us while we were yet sinning. And He knew that we would still be sinning after He did it. But yet He still loved us so much. John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in Him shall not perish but have everlasting life." Now whosoever, that's not just for the priest, that's not just for the Levite, that's not just for the Samaritan that did the good deed, but that's also for the certain man that fell. He was doing good. He was on his way to Jericho. He was from Jerusalem to Jericho, two of the biggest cities in Israel at that time, but he fell. Now, so many times in life, we're from the start to the finish, we're almost there, then we fall. We fall spiritually, we fall physically, and a lot of times there's no one there to help us because no one's willing to be the Ananias that Brother Matt talked about last week. He talked about the Ananias, and that's a great aspect of Paul. Of Ananias is only mentioned a few times in the Scripture by Paul. Is the only other time he's mentioned. And if it wasn't for that Ananias, Paul never might have got back up on his feet to serve God the right way. But this man fell, but he had a neighbor that he didn't even know about. The Samaritan knew who his neighbor was, and he helped him. And that's what we're supposed to do as Christians. Just because we don't know someone, just because we ain't never seen them, doesn't mean it is not our place to help them. James said, "He that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin." If we know it's the right thing to do, then we're supposed to do it. He bound up his wounds. He went to him, and he fell. So that's one thing I skipped. He fell. He was on the road. He fell. So he wasn't in a convenient place. He couldn't have been just on the side of the road because he was walking. He wasn't riding or anything. So if he fell, he would have had to fell off the road. So when the Samaritan went unto him, he didn't just go to the side of the road. He would have had to go down into the ditch, into the mire, into the sin of where he was. He had to go to him. I'm glad when we couldn't go nowhere, God came to us. He came down from heaven. He left the glory of heaven. He left His throne. He left everything He had and became a earthly man in a spiritual body, or a spiritual man in an earthly body, and came unto us and lived a life as a man. He was tempted in all points like men, yet without sin. He proved unto us that it is possible to walk and not to fall. It is possible to be that just man, to walk. Proverbs says, "A just man falleth 7 times, yet rises up again." And that's what the Samaritan helped this certain man do, be a just man, because he picked him back up from where he was. Our neighbor is someone in need. A neighbor is someone who we can do something for. A neighbor is not someone who can do something for us. A neighbor is not someone we know. A neighbor is someone we can help. The saying goes, a friend indeed is a friend in need. And I'm glad I've got a friend that sticks closer than a brother. He said He'll never leave us nor forsake us. He said, "I will not leave you comfortless. When I go, I shall come again, and where I am, there will ye be also." He's talking about being up in heaven. He sent a comforter to us when He left because He knew we'll need it. I'm glad He ain't going to leave us where He found us. This Samaritan didn't just leave the man at the end. He said, "Okay, you're back on your feet. Goodbye." He said, "No, when I come again." He said He's coming back. He said, when God left, He said, paraphrasing, He said, "I'm leaving now, but I'm coming back to bring y'all back." The Samaritan said, I'm leaving now. I'm going back on my business, but I'm coming back and I'll pay the rest of it. He said, "When I come again, I will repay thee." Question is, now which now of these 3 thinkest thou was a neighbor unto him that fell among the thieves? And the lawyer answered and said unto him, "He that showed mercy unto him." And the command Jesus gave is, "Go and do thou likewise." And this is a charge, a command as we as Christians have, the go and to do thou likewise. This is our reason for having neighbors. This is our reason for people breaking down on the side of the road. It's to be that help. It's to be that neighbor, the go and do thou likewise. And that the young lawyer was looking for a purpose in life, was looking for a way to escape death. He was a lawyer. He was rich. At that time, a lawyer had money. He had fame. would have been well known as a lawyer, but yet he was still searching. And that is so many times people come into the church, they're searching for something else. They're searching for something real. And sometimes we won't even, somebody will go up and shake their hand and we'll say, okay, he went and shook their hand, I don't have to. That's not it. A friend that hath friends must show himself friendly. That's what Solomon said in Proverbs. If we are supposed to be that good neighbor, we are supposed to be the neighbor. Not let them be the neighbor to us, but we are supposed to be the neighbor. And so many times they're looking and we don't show them the answer. We are the answer. We have the answer. We are the children of the light. We are that light that's supposed to be on a hill. That's what Matthew said. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. And that is what we're supposed to be as Christians. We are supposed to be that light. We are supposed to be that guide unto them to bring them from death to life. That's the only way they're going to know about it. Paul said in Romans 5, how can they hear without preachers? And how can they hear unless someone tells them, paraphrasing it, how can they hear unless someone preaches unto them? How can they hear the gospel of the cross unless someone preaches it unto them? And that is what our job is. That is the Great Commission. Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel. That is our job. If we are not, you can't go in the middle of nowhere where nobody knows you and just start preaching a random subject to them, most of the time a foreign subject. You have to become their friends for them to listen to. You have to become their neighbor for them to believe you. So in order to get the gospel across, we're not just to say, hey, Jesus loves you. We're supposed to show it in our actions. Our walk talks louder than our talk talks. But to be that friend, He is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. And that is what God is. This is the parable of the Good Samaritan, but God is the Great Samaritan because He is the example for us to do as what we're supposed to do. He said He'll never leave us nor forsake us. He said He'll not leave us comfortless, but He said He'll come again. And where I am, there thou wilt be also. When He comes, He's not just going to come as He came before. He's not going to come as a child, as a babe to the earth. I've heard so many people say it on the news, and other people say, well, when He comes again, we'll just crucify Him again. He ain't coming. When He comes again, He's not coming as a babe. He's not coming as a child as He came the first time. He's coming as the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. He's coming as the Lion of the tribe of Judah. He's coming as the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. He's coming as the King of Kings. He's coming as the God of all gods. He's coming as the Son of the Creator of the earth, which is the same person in the same time, the Trinity. He's coming as the greatest power known to mankind. He is a king. He's not just a king, He's my king. And I'm glad He's my king because I want to be on the right side of the white throne judgment and not on the left side. I want to be on the right side of it and be on the team Jesus instead of having to be judged by Him. But when I'm judged, I'll be judged by what I know. He told that in Matthew, and it's kind of beside this parable in Matthew. He judges them for what they know. He'll judge us for what we know. That's what James said. A man that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. And Paul said in Romans, without the law there is no sin. The strength of sin is the law. When somebody doesn't know wrong, when they do it, to them it's not wrong. And that's how they'll be judged. So the more you know, in a sense, is the more condemnation will be pinned on you on earth, because when you're saved in heaven, there is no condemnation for you. But how can they hear without a preacher? We are supposed to go and do thou likewise and be the ambassador for the King. So many people say, well, I'm a Christian. There's nothing really so much important to that. It's not like I'm an ambassador for the president, or I get to do things for some governor or something. You're more than that. You're an ambassador for the Lord Jesus Christ, who has the last say-so in the end. He's going to come back as a bolt and lightning. He's going to come back riding a white horse, name written on His vesture, a name above every name, a name that no one knows besides Himself. And there's several people who have theories on it, and I'm not going to go into that, but it's a name that we know, that we will know when we meet Him, because we'll get to see Him face to face. And what is He going to say to you? Is He going to say, well done, thou good and faithful servant, thou good Samaritan, well done? Or is he going to say, you could have done better? You get to come in, but you ain't getting the crown of life. You ain't getting the crown of being a witness. You ain't getting the crown of being a good Samaritan. You ain't going to have what others can have and will have. It's not just, okay, I'm a Christian, there's nothing else to it. It's being that neighbor. It's being the neighbor of all neighbors, in a way of being a neighbor better than State Farm is a neighbor, as the ad goes. But the lawyer said, who is my neighbor? He answered his question at the end of the parable, he that showed mercy unto him. And that is who we're supposed to be. I wonder if somebody talked to your neighbors and said, how good of a neighbor are they? Are they a neighbor that helps you out, or just waves at you in the morning when you drive off? Or is it a neighbor that you actually trust? A neighbor should be someone, not just someone you know, but someone you can depend your life on. Before there's cell phones, before there's any electricity, a neighbor is someone you could depend your life on. In the Revolutionary War, the Minutemen would be neighbors to each other. They would stay in groups of 2 or 4 in the towns. There would be several in the town, but depending on how big the town was, they would try and stay neighbors to each other. So when one of them woke up, they can wake the next one up, and they can wake the next one up. And that is what we are supposed to do spiritually. The call is coming. God is coming. It's not the British coming this time. God is coming. Are we going to wake up our neighbor and tell him? Because they're blind to the truth. They do not know. How can they hear without preachers? Are we going to be that minute man and not wait till the last minute, but give them enough time to really think about it? So many people say, I'll think about it and I'll get it right later. Now is the time to obey. No man knoweth the time or the day or the time when the Son of Man cometh, because he cometh as a thief in the night. Are you going to be ready? But most of all, is your neighbor going to be ready when he comes? Because that is up to us if our neighbor is going to be ready or not. But if he's your neighbor and you haven't told him, his blood will be on your hands. If you ever met somebody and held a conversation with them, according to the Bible, their blood at the white throne judgment will be on your hands, because you did not witness to them. It'll be partly your fault because they did not hear the gospel. Are you going to be judged for that? Let yourself be judged for watching. It'd be like letting yourself watch somebody rob a bank and shoot somebody and drove off. They could charge you for being an accomplice because you didn't tell nobody about it, because you let them get away. Are you going to be judged to be accomplished to them going to hell, to be part of them going to hell? It won't be you being part of them going to heaven. It'll be you being part of them going to hell, because you did not witness to them and be that good Samaritan. And that is the charge Jesus gave him. Go and do thou likewise. And it is so important for us to be that good Samaritan and be the neighbor. Miss Billy, if you would, come and play Song of Invitation. It's up to us. We can't rely on someone else to do it. We can't rely on the pastor to do it. Our pastor's way too busy to do that. Right now, our pastor, Daddy, he's still having to work. Of course, our church ain't big enough to take him on for support, but there's still so many things he has to do physically. He wishes he could do so much more spiritually, but he can't. And that is up to us to be the neighbor, not just to our neighbors, but to everyone we see daily.